What up, what up, what up? It's been a minute since I touched down with y'all. I had a few things on my mind, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to express them, right? Lately, man, there's been a lot going on in the media. There's been a lot going on in the news. There's been a lot going on in the country and in the world. Uh, but what I want to specifically address, man, is propaganda and how we as a people must start to understand how propaganda is being used as a means of warfare against us. Uh, I read an article the other day about military spending, and I think it started with like the beginning of the Obama term, maybe the end of the Bush term, the last Bush term, and it was talking about the spending within, and it was upwardly into the billions of dollars, right? High billions. You know what I mean? Like a ridiculous number. But there's a large percentage of that money going to independent contractors. Uh, and in this article, they interviewed some of the contractors and they asked them, what were they doing, why were they getting these kind of funds, and I think they were receiving something like 40% of the funds or something. It was at least 30 or 40, I'm not sure exactly, don't quote me. And one of the contractors said, we act as spotters, which means they, find military targets and then they inform the military where they are. Military goes handles that. However, the military goes and handles that, right? Another thing they say they do is they say that they use propaganda messaging to divide or to cause divisiveness within, the ranks of whomever they're, seeking out. Okay, and this is the American government paying these people to do these things. And I thought about that, and I thought that was interesting because I recognize how they use propaganda on our own shores. You know what I mean? And it's effective. It's an effective means of warfare. Loving Hip Hop New York or whatever it is, or Atlanta Housewives, or any of those mundane ass, ridiculous ass shows are proof positive that propaganda works, right? Uh, so I wanted to address that, and I want to address it from the standpoint of the news and the media of recent, and the sudden wave of African American football players specifically who seem to be headlining every goddamn news station you can think of. We had Adrian Peterson the other night or the other day with the child abuse issue. We had Ray Rice with the domestic violence issue, and then today I forget who it was, but somebody else got arrested for domestic dispute with his woman, his wife, or whoever she was in the situation. I don't know. Uh, and I wanted to address that because currently America is at war with America. There's an actual police occupation in Ferguson, and it's not on the news. You know what I mean? We're not even talking about it no more. You know what I mean? And I don't want to harp on this as to say why aren't we talking about Mike Brown versus why are we talking about Ray Rice. I don't think it's a issue of either or. I think it's an issue of both and. But I think the approach in which we approach both of those issues should be very different than the way that we're approaching them now. By no means am I advocating for domestic violence. I love women. And by no means am I advocating for child abuse. By no means. I love my children. I would never abuse my children. Now, I'm not against corporal punishment, but I'm not an abusive parent either. You know what I mean? But I think we need to check them issues out and address them from a real standpoint and address them from the foundation, right from the core of where they start. All of those issues. You know what I mean? And the reason I brought up the conversation about propaganda is because when those Ray Rice or those Adrian Peterson conversations come into play, the timing of it seems amazing to me. You know, the guy that they locked up today, or they arrested today, gave the perp walk to today. The domestic abuse situation that they said he was being charged for happened in June. It is the middle of September, late September, and this is leading the news while there's a police occupation in Ferguson. Right? We're not talking about that. And I also want to address how we address each other as a community. You know what I mean? When the Ray Rice incident hit the airwaves, or when the video hit the airwaves, there was a huge uproar from the black community specifically because, well, I don't know why, because the issue or the case wasn't new, but the video was new. So I guess when you see something visually, it changes your opinion of things, and I kind of understand that. But before that, there was a unity or a feeling of unity that was emerging in the black community, you know, and it was a unifying behind the events in Ferguson, right? And I'm talking about Ferguson specifically, even though I know there's been at least a dozen more police shootings since then, right? But the reason I'm talking about Ferguson is because Ferguson specifically inspired that unification. If it wasn't a unification in action, it was a unification in thought, which is powerful. Those other police shootings didn't get the recognition, nor did they get the response from the community that the Mike Brown situation got. Hence, they didn't cause the kind of uproar, nor did they get the kind of attention. So, you know, I'm focused on Ferguson specifically more about the response than the actual incident, you know. But the minute the Ray Rice video hit the web or hit the airwaves, people stopped talking about Ferguson. That is a divide and conquer propaganda tool to shift your focus, right? Black people's biggest issue in America is being black people. There is no divisive or division between black women and black men. At the hands of white people, you are all the same. And we must start separating ourselves from the thought processes of mainstream America. We have to. Ray Rice does not represent me. He doesn't represent the brothers in my circle. He doesn't represent the majority of brothers in America. You know, so don't condemn the whole community for what went on with him. You know, and don't divert your focus from what the larger issue is at hand. Right? And until I can no longer breathe, I'm going to be letting you all know the larger issue at hand is that white supremacy is the order of the day. Right? It's the order of the day. And we must effectively unify to defeat it. Period. Period. It has to be a unification in thought. It has to be a unification in feeling and emotion and finance. It has to be a unification of us as a people, you know. And the more divisive we are, the more divided we are, the more we're bickering amongst ourselves, the worse the situation gets. Period. Period. We can talk about Ray Rice all day long, right? We can yell and holler and scream about how he should lose his job, right? But there was a YouTube video that surfaced of a white policeman beating a grandmother on the side of a road. Did he lose his job? There was several witness accounts from Ferguson with Darren Wilson. Did he lose his job? Right? So we talk about this shit, but we talk about it haphazardly, right? We don't really focus on the real issues, nor do we get to the depths of how this system really works, right? The only people being punished are us, and we're the most punitive people in the world on ourselves. But even that is a direct reflection of white supremacy. I just want y'all to start thinking a little more deep about some of the stuff y'all think and say and do, right? We must unify, man. This is real. And I say that now because there's a point, there's the mood and the feel of today scares me. I got two beautiful little children that I love more than I love breathing. And at the rate that we're going as a community, I'm afraid for their future. And if you have children, you should be afraid for their future as well. It's time to stop bullshitting, man. It is so time to stop bullshitting. It's time to be one, act as one, move as one, and build a nation within a nation. I'm out.